Hello and welcome to Strive Dialogue. Today we have Colonel Rajiv Agarwal with us as a guest to talk to us on a burning topic of what's happening in Middle East, specifically with reference to Israel. Today you pick up social media, you take electronic media or WhatsApp groups. The words which are streaming are Israel, Hamas, Gaza, and MOSSAD. Rajiv, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Now, about this, what has happened in Israel, राजीव आप ये तो मानेंगे कि दो वहम जो हैं दुनिया के वो अब इससे टूट गए हैं। एक तो ये कि हमास की कैपेबिलिटी जितनी आंकी गई थी उससे बहुत ज्यादा थी, और दूसरी ये कि इजराइल की जो कैपेबिलिटी थी टू डिफेंड इटसेल्फ वो भी एक भ्रम टूट गया। राजीव, यू बीन इन एमआई डायरेक्टरेट, you have served in the Gulf Division of MEA, and presently you are Assistant Director in Manohar Parikar Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis. I know कि आप इसके ऊपर बहुत पैनी नजर रखते हैं. Recently, I read an article written by you where you've actually said that this war was waiting to happen. And when I went through the article, I saw that most of the information, or rather, almost entire information that you have taken, was available in the open media, as we know is called the open source intelligence. Rajiv, I would request you to kindly tell me what exactly was the information and what was it that you could conclude, which probably Mossad missed. Over to you, Rajiv, to tell us about what was it. This was the
Thank you.
article, the heading which you can see, which has been written, opinion piece which Rajiv Agarwal has written. Hamas attacking Israel from Gaza was a war waiting to happen. Rajiv, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for inviting me to this show. And yes, when I sat down to write this article, I said, how should we start? Because by the time people start reading it and start analyzing it, the war would be already on, and it'll develop at a very furious pace, knowing how the wars and conflicts in Middle East or West Asia, as we call it, progress. So I said the first thing for me to see is why did it happen, and were there any red flags that were missed along the line, which if they had been noticed, they would have made the difference, and so many casualties and innocent lives lost would not have happened. So we all know that now this war is progressing. Today is the sixth day, and Israel is, preparing for the ground offensive at its own time and choosing. They are amassing troops and reservists. So this is going to be a long drawn war. The last ground offensive that I recollect was in 2009, when Israel had launched a ground offensive into Gaza, which was the first ground offensive after Gaza was taken over by Hamas as a part of its battle with its second group Fatah in the Palestine Authority. So coming to this particular war which has broken out, I saw four very big, red flags or indicators, as you call it, which, if it had been kept in mind and people are not complacent or overconfident, we could have avoided this situation. The first and foremost factor was the increasing intensity of conflict and violence in West Bank. Anybody who's followed the happenings in Israel and Palestine, the first thing that comes to mind whenever the conflict is mentioned is Gaza. But surprisingly, for last 1 or 2 years, Gaza was not the center of conflict. The so-called island of peace of West Bank, that had become the center of conflict. We saw the ops in Jenin camp, which were conducted by Israel in July 23, which were the largest operations for over 2 decades in Jenin camp in West Bank. We saw repeated, attacks on Palestinian worshippers happening in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is a very, very holy place as far as the Palestinians are concerned, again in the West Bank. And just to give you a small perspective of the intensity of the operations which were happening in the West Bank, in August 22, we had the Operation Breaking Dawn happening, in which Israel had launched a preemptive rocket and artillery and air assault in Gaza Strip. And again in May 2023, Operation Shield and Arrow, again in Gaza Strip. But guess what? These two operations in Gaza Strip were not launched against Hamas. They were launched against a group called PIJ, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which is again one of the militant groups, but not directly related to Hamas. And that is why when we see the whole perspective of operations of the last 2 years, the Hamas had slipped right under the radar as far as the operations are concerned, and it was the West Bank in geography and PIJ as a group which were kept in focus. And so this was the first red flag that was missed by the Israel. The second, as I just mentioned, was the Al Aqsa Mosque. Very, very important for Palestinians and Muslims as a whole. It is the third holiest site for the Muslims, and it is the place which is believed to be the place from where Prophet ascended to the heaven. And there have been conflicts in the past, but this time, what happened in the month of Ramadan, Israel struck twice on the Palestinian worshippers, which were who had gone to worship in the holy site, and it drew widespread condemnation from all Arab countries. In fact, UAE president had dispatched his envoy to meet PM Netanyahu and warn him that these things should not continue. Then again, in the month of September, that is 17th September, 20 days before this operation, this assault by Hamas, again, Palestinian worshippers were targeted in Al-Aqsa Mosque, and Israeli worshippers were allowed to enter. And as recent as 3 days before the war broke out, on 4th of October, again the same thing happened. So there was a burning resentment against this action which the Israeli forces were carrying out in Al-Aqsa Mosque. The third red flag, which was missed out, which was so clearly out in the open, was the Saudi-Israeli normalization, which had been happening for a few months now. And in recent last few weeks, it had actually picked up pace. During the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, both the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Sultan as well as PM Netanyahu gave public statements that they were quite close and a deal could happen in next few coming months. We had Israeli ministers, the communication minister and a trade minister, going to Saudi Arabia, which are the first ever visits by a Israeli government minister to Saudi Arabia. And there were reports that US is also coming around to honor or accept some of the conditions of the Saudi Arabia as far as this deal is concerned. And therefore, it should have been realized very clearly by all the parties that if a Saudi-Israel normalization takes place, what happens to Palestine if the deal does not contain a proper two-state solution? And the reports indicated that two-state solution was not part of the deal. There were some assurances that were supposed to be given to Palestine. And if that had happened, the entire 75 years of struggle of the Palestine would have gone down the drain. And if Saudi Arabia, which is the leader of the Muslim world, had not been part of that struggle, then the Palestinian cause was lost. And the fourth factor, whenever there's a question of Israel, you cannot, forget Iran.
Rajiv,
And
sorry, sorry, breaking your chain. This may
yeah,
help our audience to correlate.
yeah. So this diagram, who's supporting whom gives a very fair idea of what is happening. So when it comes to Iran versus Israel, it is a thumbs down, thumbs down. Hamas, it is a thumbs up. But when it comes to Saudi, presently with Israel, it is thumbs down. With US, it is going thumbs up, and Hamas, it is thumbs down. So coming back to the last point, which was missed, that was the Iran factor. Right from 2023 beginning onwards, Iran has been on a roll. Their nuclear program is going on, despite the report that they found samples of 84% enriched uranium. Nothing much could be done. When Iran removed IAEA inspectors from their nuclear sites in June, nothing happened. Uh, there was a very big event which took place on 18 September, wherein Iran and America, through Qatar, they exchanged prisoners, and Iran got $6 billion, which was frozen in U.S. accounts in South Korea, and that was apart from the monetary value of the defreezing of 6 billion. It was the psychological impact that they had won this small battle of getting the accounts defreezed. And then on 4th October, there was a US defense strategy report which gave almost like a clean check to Iran, where they said that Iran is not developing a nuclear weapons program, although if they want, they can develop it in a few weeks' time. So
Okay.
these were the four big flags. If they had been kept note of, apart from the technical issues of intelligence failure, these four factors, if they had been kept in mind, maybe this kind of a thing may not have happened. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. See, whenever anything has to be protected, Rajiv, you will understand that Israel is found on an area, on a land which is a contested land. It was created in 1948, and there is a traditional Judaism versus Islam rivalry is there. So Israel very soon realized that अगर उसने ठीक से सुरक्षा के साथ सिक्योरिटी के साथ रहना है तो it has to be a security dominating state, or in a way you can say that the entire country was converted into a garrison state, wherein issues like physical security, intelligence was given more importance. Very briefly, you have covered this point of intelligence failure. Let's now have a look at this. I'll just flash this slide, that how exactly do you protect when you are a garrison state? How exactly do you protect the whatever is the target of supposedly the militants? Now, in this case, if you see this रिंग्स, दीज आर कंसेंट्रिक रिंग्स, कोई भी एरिया जो है बीच का जिसको प्रोटेक्ट करना होता है, दैट हैज टू बी गिवन कंसेंट्रिक सर्कल. सबसे बाहर रहता है इंटेलिजेंस कवर. आपके सोर्सेस ह्यूमन के, आपके टेक्निकल इंटेलिजेंस, कम्युनिकेशन इंटेलिजेंस, आपके सैटेलाइट इंटेलिजेंस, इन सब से आप इंफॉर्मेशन को कलेक्ट करते हैं. और अगर कोई टेररिस्ट अटैक होने की का अंदेशा रहता है तो यू आर एबल टू स्टॉप इट, स्टॉल इट, उससे पहले कि वो कर पाए उसको रोक दिया जाता है. लेकिन यू विल एग्री दैट इट कैन नॉट बी फुल प्रूफ. एक इंटेलिजेंस ग्रिड जो बनाई जाती है उसके अंदर कोई ना कोई गैप जरूर रह जाएगा. उसके अंदर से मिलिटेंट्स निकल जाते हैं. तो उसके बाद होता है फिजिकल सिक्योरिटी. फिजिकल सिक्योरिटी में आपकी फेंस है, आयरन फेंस है, जो उसके केस में इज अबाउट 20 फीट हाई. उसका जो ग्राउंड है उसको अंदर कंक्रीट के साथ बनाया गया है. उसके ऊपर सेंसर्स हैं, उसके ऊपर अलार्म्स है, उसके पीछे वॉच टावर्स हैं. वहां पर 24 घंटे बाय ऑब्जर्वेशन एंड बाय फायर उस फेंस को डोमिनेट किया जाता है. आई वुड feel that this lesson learned how exactly it was breached is important for us also, because we also have a similar fence in J&K, in Jammu and Kashmir. In this case, Hamas, they have managed to break this physical barrier also with no alarm. Then the close cover which is provided, that is the immediate cordon, उसको भी break कर दिया गया और ये पहुंच गए अंदर. राजीव, इतनी कॉम्प्लिसेंसी क्यों आ गई कि आपके हर लेयर को कॉम्प्रोमाइज किया गया और यहां तक पहुंचा? क्या ये ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस था? क्या ये हमास का प्लान था कि ओवर ए पीरियड ऑफ टाइम 2-2.5 साल उन्होंने कुछ नहीं किया? यू हैव सेड a bit. I would like you to just elaborate on this point.
So, sir, you are right. I mean, for any kind of a security grid, and especially with reference it is very special both to Israel and India because of our special circumstances across the borders and line of control. So, as far as this point is concerned, I would say there were three important things that went against Israel. The first is what you said, complacency. Second is deception. And third is distraction. So I'll explain in a minute all three of them. Complacency was because of inaction by Hamas for over 2 years, or non provocation of Israel or across the Gaza Strip for almost 2 years. There was sense of complacency that Hamas was more into a political mode, and they had given up some kind of a militant kind of a attitude. Hamas did not join PIJ in any of the attacks across the West Bank when it happened. So there was a sense of complacency which had set in, and that I would say. The second is the deception. The way Hamas carried out this attack is a lesson for everybody in intelligence. It was the deception was across many realms. So what did they do? They first fired 5 to 7,000 rockets simultaneously, which was beyond the capability and capacity of the Iron Dome system. While the rockets landed and created chaos early in the morning and people scrambled, it was a holiday. And so half of the people who were, they were on a break or something, and it was not fully, the fences or the posts were not fully manned. Now we have also got reports that through the drones and through slingshots, Hamas disabled their posts, which were observation power towers. They disabled their automatic firing machine guns, and they disabled their immediate communication towers, which were used to communicate between the various Israeli posts and the command post. And thereafter, simultaneous attack on the fence through various means across 22 locations was again a very well conceived plan, and Israelis were actually deceived. The third is the distraction. The distraction was beautifully created by everything that was happening in the West Bank, wherein the entire focus of Israel was towards what was happening in West Bank and sometimes across Lebanon. And so these three factors combined lulled them into a situation where they were caught with utter surprise.
Okay, very well covered. Now, as far as this deception is concerned and this complacency, it's not only Mossad or Israeli. आपने जैसे बताया है, ओपन सोर्स को भी एनालाइज नहीं किया गया, टेक्निकल इंटेलिजेंस को भी एनालाइज नहीं किया. सबसे बड़ी यूएसए इसका सबसे बड़ा हिमायती है. Even USA on 29th of September, the NSA to President Joe Biden, in a speech, is saying that Middle East has not been quieter in 2 decades than what it is today. He was
Absolutely.
not hinting at the lull. He was actually hinting at, he was showing this as an achievement of the present government.
Absolutely.
Rajiv, we have served in counterinsurgency areas. जब इस तरह का माहौल होता है, जब कुछ नहीं होता है, तो instead of saying that all is okay, we start getting, panic starts. At least as an intelligence operator, I always used to panic, and I should tell my officers and men, yeah, this is an uneasy calm. Something
Absolutely.
is going to happen. Look for this thing. How can it be an uneasy calm?
Yes.
एक मार्केट का चक्कर लगाते थे तो समझ में आता था कि आज मार्केट में कुछ हलचल कम है, या कुछ दुकानें खास तौर पे ऐसी होती हैं जिसको आप देखते हैं कि ये दुकान क्यों बंद है. सो दीज आर ऑल रेड फ्लैग्स व्हिच शुड हैव बीन रेज्ड एट दैट पर्टिकुलर टाइम. इतने सालों से आप उस एरिया में आप डिप्लॉयड हैं, आपको उनकी हर एक्टिविटी के बारे में मालूम है, आपने नो एरिया जोन बना रखे हैं फेंस के आसपास, आपके इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इक्विपमेंट हैं, आपकी कम्युनिकेशंस हैं, आपके वॉच टावर हैं. इन्होंने जिस तरह से इसको प्लान किया, आई थिंक द प्लान वाज बेटर देन अ मिलिट्री ऑपरेशन. इट वाज अ फुल फ्लेज्ड मिलिट्री ऑपरेशन.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a war of unequals. You have a
Yes.
conventional army of the Israeli forces where you have tanks, guns, air force, commanders, structure, and on the other hand, you have Hamas, which is ad hocly organized group of people who are super motivated towards their cause
Yes.
and funded by multiple channels across the globe. So it is a a war of unequals. But as I wrote in my article, Hamas I don't think was looking at victory. Hamas had reached a stage, and the plan which they had over the past 1 or 2 years, their own sole intention was that before it is too late, their voice should be heard and heard with a loud bang. They know that the ground offensive will come. They knew that the aircraft will pound their buildings and hospitals and schools down. They knew that Gaza would be blockaded, and most likely, if the war goes the way it is going, and when the Israeli pride is heard, Gaza would be occupied by Israel sooner than later. But I think it was about them knowing everything and still going about it, just to see that they don't reach a stage where even if they raise a voice, nothing would be heard.
But Rajiv, I have a counter question to this. This could be a tactical win for Hamas. What have they achieved at strategic level? What, by doing this action, have they gained friends or have they made enemies? Somehow, even what is the situation or condition today of Saudi Arabia, of Iran, of, are they, have they actually strategically achieved something? Fine, temporarily, tactical level, yes, 1200, 1300 Israeli killed, 3,500 injured, कैप्टिव्स दे हैव टेकन, जिसको आप वो बाद में अपने प्रिजनर्स के साथ एक्सचेंज करेंगे. But what have they achieved at strategic level? I mean, their aim is to make an independent country, Palestine. Have they worked towards it, or have they somehow compromised that their ultimate aim of achieving an independent country for Palestinians?
So I think there are two things that we have to consider in that. First thing, which I think that there's a realization that firstly in the entire Muslim world they were losing the support as far as the long-term Palestinian cause for a two-state solution was concerned. And as I mentioned in my article, the increasing settlements which are being ordered and constructed in the West Bank was leaving practically no geographical space to be left for creation of a viable Palestine state whenever it would happen in the future. As far as the tactical or strategic victory is concerned, I think that right now Hamas is the villain. They have launched a terror attack. They have butchered Israelis. We have watched the news where small babies have been, killed and very massacred in a very brutal manner. So right now, Hamas is the villain, and even the staunchest of the Muslim countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, everybody is denouncing Hamas. But what happens 10 days down the line, 15 days down the line, 1 month down the line, if there's no ceasefire? More and more groups, more and more nations will be forced to join in the battle. As I said yesterday on one of the other shows, this battle will not remain localized between Hamas, Israel, and localized to Gaza. If there is no immediate ceasefire, which is unlikely, it may spread further. And moment it spreads further, it will no longer remain a Hamas versus Israel war. It will become a cause for the Palestine state. It will become a cause for Muslim solidarity. And that time, the stakes and the cause for victory will be totally differently defined.
Well said, Rajiv. Now, I went through another very interesting article given by Memory, that is Middle East Media Research
Research
Institute,
Institute.
which actually says that in 2018 May, they had written an article. There was a Facebook page where, if you see this slide onto the left, first slide, which is from the separation fence to Kisuk, 38 minutes. The distances are given, the targets are given. Then there is also a map which is depicting distance to various communities which are there in the Gaza, near the Gaza border. This should have raised hackles. If, and for lack of space, I could not give more images. There are satellite images, and they're saying that these have been distributed to youth. I mean, if so much of input was available, is it a case of a very speculative sort of thing which has been dismissed, which in intelligences we do? जब कोई ऐसा big lie type, कि यार ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता, तो straight away you just discard that particular information. Do you think at some stage each and every input that has come has to go through the int cycle? That is, first of all, we must collect from various agencies, we must collate it, thereafter shifting, analysis, and thereafter dissemination. And it should not be just left on the whims and fancies of the analyst who's sitting because he thinks that it is outrageous, he cannot do it. But when you go back to this operation that has taken place, I was trying to analyze it. A lot is true in what these images are given. I mean, you've been in MI directorate. Anything that you want to comment on this? That how can chota, bada, big, small, any input can be negated? Subsequently, in hindsight, it is easier to become wiser. But yes, these sort of things should not have happened.
I agree, sir. This MEMRI report, which is there, it is giving inputs which were first, discovered by Israel in 2018. So
Yeah.
it was 5 years back, and like I said, the focus of Israel on the skirmishes or conflict happening towards West Bank only happened in last about 1.5 2 years. The last major operation which happened in Gaza Strip was in May 2021. So from if we take the this maps which are there in 2018, yes, Israeli would have known about it. Israel would have known about it, and they would have plugged those loopholes. But this was way back. Although what I would say that this information or this kind of a data that was collated by Hamas would not have gone waste when they planned this particular operation over the past 1 year.
Yes. So that is what my point is, that how can you not, I mean, this at back of mind somewhere it should have formed an opinion about this thing. Okay, now let's go ahead. Rajiv, I'm asking you a very speculative question. I know subsequently investigations will reveal, but as of now, since you have a detailed analysis you have carried out and you are constantly in touch with the development, who's done it?
Sorry.
Who's done this? At whose behest? Which is the country which has benefited the most? And do you think Hamas has been able to do it on its own? Or is it that at behest of some country who's getting benefited the most by what has happened?
See, all like I mean, the conventional wisdom which is floating across all intelligence sources, etc., is Iran, and Israel and Iran are no friends; they are enemy number one. So all pointers point to that. Although Iran, whenever it has been blamed for any of such attacks, it has been very, very clear to deny all this, and none of the intelligence agencies have been able to point out to anything specific leading
Yes.
back to Iran as of now. But yes, Hamas could not have done it on its own. Neither does it have the money, nor the resources, nor the way to plan this kind of a audacious attack, and the support. So time will tell how this came about. To me, it is not possible that it had only one single support or someone backing. It has to be something more than that. And right now, it would not be fair to speculate on any nation as such.
Yes. I agree with you. Subsequently, the investigations will actually reveal what happened, why did it happen, and now see, we are also victim of terrorism in our country. We also, like I had alluded to, we also rely a bit on our physical barrier to the militants who are trying to infiltrate. We have a large sea coast. Now, this sort of activity, do you think it encourages radical elements in India? They may get emboldened. And what are the major lessons? If you can answer it in two parts. Firstly, do you think that radical elements within our country will get emboldened and even across our borders in the West? And do you think that we need to be more careful, or we are okay with the way we are handling the insurgency and terrorism in our country?
So any incident of this kind, the kind of scale and audacity that Hamas launched, a lot of analysts, and I also wrote it in my article, it is like 9/11 of Israel. So if you recall, when 9/11 happened, there was so much of chatter amongst the uh, this thing radical groups or terrorist groups, that they had been able to achieve such a victory against the mightiest of the nations, that is the United States. Similarly, Israel in the region, as far as its invincibility is concerned, in terms of its strength of its guarding its borders are concerned, was absolutely impenetrable. And to do it and across such a wide scope, and if you recall, Hamas has done it across all the three mediums. They launched ground groups, 20, 22, 25 points across this thing. They innovated hang gliders, powered hang gliders, and flew over the fence to launch land inside Israeli territory to target them. And despite a standing blockade across the sea since 2007, we should remember Israel never eased the blockade across sea in Gaza. They had permitted land border, they had permitted Rafah crossing across Egypt, etc. But sea blockade was never eased.
Yes.
They found small boats to land on beaches across Israel and launch these attacks. So I mean, these things give a such a psychological boost to any of these kind of groups across the world, not only across India but across the world. That if they could do it, then we could also do it.
Yeah.
But the most important factor is that these things do not happen in isolation. Unless there is support, unless there is guidance, unless there is intelligence as well as weapon support, these don't happen. As far as we are concerned, I mean, Indian Army is on the ball, and we both have been there. We are not known to let our guard down, and we are pretty good. Yes, line of control fence is not totally impenetrable, but we have layers of interception lines where we are able to nab the infiltrators as and when they come. And Jammu and Kashmir is on a very positive trajectory. So, despite all the good things happening, we have to maintain our alert level so that we don't slip even one rung as far as the prosperity and positive trajectory of JNK is concerned.
Totally with you, Rajiv. Now we have good standard operating procedures. I'm sure Israel has fantastic standard operating procedures, but like important days, like in this particular case you have also mentioned, important days we have to be extremely careful. We have to raise our guard because it gives some sort of complacency to the victim, or now in case of Israel, but it gives a big boost to the morale of the militants and terrorists who want to disrupt the activities.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Rajiv, I will just flash a uh, slide that I had prepared. I was going through some of the major newspapers, cutting from the newspapers what they are saying. Very briefly, one or two points that you can give, add, or think on what all this. Like Saudi Israeli normalization effort takes a violent detour after Hamas attack. Very briefly for our
Yeah, so
viewers, explain.
Saudi has already given an official statement that they are suspending the normalization process, and it's a huge dent not only for the two countries but for Joe Biden's initiative in the Middle East, which he wanted to flag it as a big major victory of his presidency. China, there's a limit to what China can do. The 10th March deal, which Saudi Iranian deal, which they got it done, was a different ball game. But China never has had too much influence across Israel or in Palestine. And Iran factor we have already discussed. I mean, Iran has been on the roll for last 1 year. Everything that is happening with its external dimension is positive. It's got entry into break. There's a Saudi Iran normalization. There's a GCC's Iran dialogue now opening up. So everything good is happening as far as Iran is concerned, and that's what I was.
Yeah. Uh, See, with reference to China, some weapon with China marking have been found. Anything on that?
I won't say much on that.
Okay, that's fine. Because I know that at this particular time, everybody likes to speculate and, in fact, feed the information which the audience wants to know. But yes, there is hardly anything that actually points out towards China, though China also does benefit. Specifically, there are few who are talking about BRI versus IMAC. That
I know.
IMAC is a non-starter now with this sort of problem that is coming up. Turkey is being roped in for this thing, but I think let's leave it to people who like to increase their TRP by bringing in this thing. But yes, I agree with you. As of now, there is no substantial
Yes.
evidence to either confirm or negate this China angle into the whole thing. And
And
as and when we come to know about it, probably more and more information will be available. Then probably we'll be in a better position to assess what exactly has gone wrong and how exactly India should proceed.
yeah, and
Uh,
about IMEC, I have written that if the war expands and engulfs the region as such, and it becomes Muslim solidarity versus the rest, then IMEC could be one of the casualties of this war.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. So this particular development, how does it actually India को कितना इफेक्ट करेगा? Overall in the region, or we should just wait and let the things develop and then decide our strategy. I mean, any thing on this?
Sir, India has lots of concern as far as not only this war but the entire West Asian region is concerned. It is part of our extended neighborhood, and we have lots and lots of things which are there as far as our energy is concerned, our diaspora is concerned, our remittances are concerned. We have UAE and Saudi Arabia as our strategic partners. We have defense cooperation, security cooperation going on. Egypt was the chief guest for the Republic Day this year, and we have signed a strategic partnership with Egypt. So anything that happens in West Asia has direct implication not only on the overall security dimension for India, but also on the overall trade and economics dimension of India. Today only we have heard that India has launched Operation Ajay to get
Yeah,
back its civilians in Israel, and it is estimated that there are about 17 to 18,000 Indians out there. So the kind of spread across the field of spectrum that India has in the region, and imagine if this war is going to extend to may not be in physical terms, but in terms of support, in terms of finances to other parts of the West Asian region, it is going to be a huge concern for India.
yeah, I agree with you. Uh, Rajiv, it has been an excellent discussion. I think by and large, we have covered a lot of ground. We will now take on the audience questions. I was expecting this question to come. Now, the war between Ukraine and Russia, between Israel and Hamas. Since ammunition, weapon, manpower shortage is the best time for China to invade Taiwan or Bharat.
Yeah, I mean, China and Taiwan is a question which has been going on
Yeah,
for some days now. And if it happens, it will be very unfortunate because it will increase the scope of conflict across the globe, from Europe to West Asia to Indo-Pacific. Uh, but I mean, there's no way that one can speculate on such things. China, there's no way it can invade or attack Bharat. That I'm very sure.
yeah.
There's no way in hell that China can take this risk at this time.
No, okay. What basically why Mr. Kumar Gopalan has written is that few days we had a episode, a correction and edition of Stripe Dialect, where one of us had said that whenever there is the world's attention is on some major event, like 1962 case, it was the Cuban Missile Crisis. that China utilized that and entered it into invaded into India. Before that, during Korean War, it invaded Tibet. 79 problems in Iran, Shah of Iran and all, and that is the time Vietnam happened. So probably taking a hint from there, uh, Mr. Kumar Gopalan is saying that probably it should not happen that while the world is looking at the Hamas and Israel problem and Ukraine and Russian problem at that particular time, and China utilizes this thing and invades Taiwan or Bharat. But like
No,
you said, it's very very speculative as of now. However, now
speculative
just
for
few
Taiwan.
minutes, yeah, Taiwan,
Speculative for Taiwan, not for India. There's
not
no
for
way
it.
in hell
However,
that no way in hell
however,
that
Rajiv,
China can take a risk of doing anything with India now.
but Rajiv, again we've been saying that sometimes the speculative reports we discard, but it cannot be totally ruled out. You know,
Yes, so we have to be on alert.
we have
We
to
have
be
to be
on alert.
vigilant,
We
and
have to be vigilant.
with the kind of military presence and resolute leadership, there is no way that China can be permitted to do any mischief of that sort.
Yeah. No, no. So we are very very well poised. So you know. Okay. Let's take the next question. Here he's saying, "Ask sir, this kind of operation required a large amount of resources. So how long does the smuggling go on? Year, 2 year? I mean, his basic point is that this is a large scale operation. How
Yes,
much
so
time do you think it would have taken?
So that's what I said in my article, that the entire focus was shifted from Gaza to West Bank over the last about 1 to 1.5 years. Hamas was not actively getting involved with anything that was the PIJ was doing or anything that was happening in West Bank, and this lull time gave it ample opportunity to keep building up its resources in terms of rockets, other innovative techniques that it used to get small boats or powered hand grenades, etc. So one to 1.5 years, I would give about 18 months that it took to muster up the whole thing.
Yeah. Fine, I agree with you. This is the time which it will take. Colonel RP, sir, lesson learned by India. Surrounding launching pad around, also in the hinterland, sympathizers, including political and diplomatic, is a warning to us to initiate safeguard measures. How, when, and methodology.
I mean, we can't discuss military methodology on this channel, but yes, the lesson for us is that the most vigilant and technologically superior intelligence system, if that could be beaten, then we have to be doubly alert to see any kind of mischief doesn't happen. We all know the state of Pakistan right now; it is in a steep downward spiral in all forms. There is no government, there's a caretaker government, and uh, in such a scenario, if some kind of a back to the wall kind of thing is initiated by groups across the LC, it can't be ruled out. So we have to be doubly vigilant and doubly sure that our systems work and we are not complacent.
Yeah, we have to see, like I had mentioned, and Rajiv also alluded to in the initial remark, that you have to be vigilant at all time. Do not discard any input. Like we normally say in intelligence, that you see everything red. Everybody is actually, gunning for you. Till such time, it very positively turns itself into green. But even the green signal, you should not take it away from the overall, scenario. It may fit into some picture at a later date. A
Yes.
very small tweaking of your a little input, you'll suddenly recall that something similar had happened in the past also, and that is how the intelligence picture is built. And that is the reason AI is now coming, but I don't know. Of late, whatever the software were there to analyze the information, it was ultimately the human mind who could recall that. I mean, a software will not help you to judge the environment which is going, present at that particular time to say that today something is unusual. And like I said, that there's the easy calm that is prevailing in the environment. So that should actually raise and heckle that why is
In
it
fact,
so?
in fact, this war has proved that without the human mind and resource behind the machine, you
Yeah.
cannot rely on technology and artificial intelligence to do your job. You have to be
Yes.
there physically. You can make use of that technology, but that human resource has to be there.
Absolutely. See, even in intelligence community, we talk. You may have, actually what happens is that human end should be driven by the technology. You have to task because human end is a very, very premium resource that any int agency has. So technical intelligence or satellite intelligence or interception of communication gives you a particular lead. You have to task your human end resources to either confirm or negate it, because technical intelligence will just give you that much, that there is an antenna at so and so place. That's the end of it. No, why it is there, since when it is there, why, who all are around, is there any mobilization, even a small little thing that few paper waste papers are lying at some particular place, so he will come and tell you that yes, but technical intelligence cannot pick up that information. So human resource sources or agents or assets have to be guided by technical intelligence and not negated. It's somehow, I have a feeling that technologically advanced countries go wrong on this. Luckily, in our case, we have never ever given up our human and resources and assets to task. I think we'll take one more question and then we ask why only Kashmir, Srinagar, Hindus in Jammu, they can also attack through Bangladesh and Nepal. We are seeing demographic change in Uttarakhand, Himachal, Assam, Tripura, Bengal. Anything is possible. That's what this particular operation itself is teaching us, that anything is possible. You cannot negate any input from any corner of the country. Demographic change is one aspect of it. There are huge lot of indicators you have to keep looking, and we have agencies, internal security agencies, IBs there, state IBs there, state polices there, who are monitoring situation and giving feedback to the analysts who are sitting and analyzing whatever information they are getting. Raji, you may like to add if you want.
No, nothing's happening. I mean, I fully endorse whatever you said. So.
Okay. Rajiv, thank you very much. I think with this, we have achieved what we wanted to convey to our audience, and we've ourselves learned. I'm looking forward to some more interactions with you. I know that you have few ideas in your mind which you discussed with me separately, and let's continue with this association. And let me assure our audience that yes, there are people who are working on ground. Information is being collected, it is being collated, it is being sent to analysts like Colonel Rajiv Agarwal, who is going through the what is available in the open source, what is available through other agencies as well as human agencies, connecting the dot, making a picture for us, and presenting it to the Ministry of Defense and to Army headquarters and to all service headquarters, and adequate countermeasures are being planned and executed. Thank you, Rajiv, and
Thank you,
looking
sir.
forward to some more interaction. Any closing remark that you want to close with?
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure being with you and able to exchange views and ideas. The only closing remark that we can say is that let India never face what Israel has faced, or any country face what Israel has faced. It is most inhuman and most unfortunate what has happened. Let there be peace.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thanks. Thanks.